Hi, I'm Joe Walensky. I'm the program manager for ConveyUX, which is Seattle's annual UX conference. We're coming up on our 7th annual running of it, March 11th, 12th, and 13th. And I'm pleased to be able to talk to one of our featured speakers today, Jaime Levy. Hello, Jaime. How are you doing today?
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me on here.
Well, happy to do it. Happy to have you involved. I'm speaking from Blink UX's Seattle office. Where are you at today?
I am in my home office in Los Angeles, California.
Hey, you're home. That's nice. I know you travel around a lot, and you're always doing a lot of things. Why don't you tell us a little bit, maybe a little bit for people that may not be familiar with your work, some of the things that you've been involved in and what you're up to right now.
Sure. Well, let's see. I've been developing products and services since before the internet. How I got into this racket originally was from film and wanting to do different forms of nonlinear storytelling and coming up with innovative solutions before the term innovative was a common buzzword. And so over the last 3 decades, I tend to be attracted to opportunities where I get to really push the technology in new ways. So that said, the way for me to generally keep on top of everything is by having a career that has multiple personalities. So since the very beginning, I've been a part-time professor teaching, before it was called user experience, nonlinear storytelling, prototype development, but then I've been teaching lots of UX strategy and design courses at both UCLA and University of Southern California. And I teach part-time because it's important to me to be able to speak in a simple language about our field of expertise, and also to stay updated, with all the new technologies coming out and being able to articulate what they do to newbies. It's always been really important to me. Plus, it's a great way to hire students. Another thing that I have been doing in the last 5 years is I became an author by accident. I needed a textbook at USC for my course on UX strategy, so I insanely decided to write one because there wasn't one. And so I locked myself in the library for a couple of years and used my course as a structure and wrote a book that was a little theoretical to give people a quick MBA on business strategy, but then jumping right into techniques to help people connect the dots on where user experience intersects with business strategy. And so when the book came out, surprisingly, it wasn't just a textbook. It started attract a lot of people were entrepreneurs, product managers, C-suite, newbie UX designers, even though I wrote it for people like us, top level, experienced designers, this type of thing. But and it changed my life. All of a sudden, I found myself touring the world for 3 years, speaking at conferences and doing workshops, and then fortunately, I started getting people calling me about jobs. Usually it's normal to go look for jobs and to interview them or to respond to RFPs, and now the book magically became this calling card where people read the book, they buy into my methodology, which is a mashup of a lot of things, including Blue Ocean strategy, lean startup principles, and doing forms of user experience that are very lean forms of user research, and just saying, hey, we've got this project, you want to do it? And so that's what's been happening in more recently, and I'm getting just stranger and stranger opportunities.
Well, you wrote a good book. So, I mean, a lot of people write books, and some of them don't get well received, but obviously yours was really well received, and a lot of people found it very useful, and so it makes sense that it would be a natural calling card. I know you're going to be building on some of that in your talks at the conference, but let's talk a little bit about those. The first one that you're going to be doing is one of our feature presentations called Digital Transformation, Going Beyond Buzzwords. So just tell us a little bit about what we can expect from that.
Sure. So one of the things that happened to me, one of these calls came from a large healthcare client, and they said, hey, we are going through a digital transformation and we want to know if you'd be interested in leading on that. And I said, absolutely. And then I started Googling what the hell digital transformation was, since I never really heard of it other than in like the Dell commercials. And I bought every single book on it and realized that kind of like what the discovery phase was, kind of like what design thinking is, or was certainly when it came out, was there was just so many, it was so fragmented, people's understanding of it. And there really wasn't a prescriptive way on how to actually do it. And it's also extremely contextual on the business. Like if the business is like purely digital, then digital transformation means something very different from a company that's, let's say, a brick and mortar store. But so I started learning about it while having to basically do and engage in this digital transformation that was going on. And I realized what it was a next level of UX strategy. That instead, UX strategy is very much focused on its product strategy, where you're making something that ultimately is going to make money for the business because you're going to have happy customers. But digital transformation goes beyond that. It looks, it looks at the business model and the customer experience, but it also looks at how are the internal processes of the business going to be affected? How can the business be optimized, the resources? How can the company change into a true culture of innovation, not just the buzzwordy version of it? And that really requires understanding how they currently run their business and their value chain, and then thinking of ways that they can have optimize that process so that they can basically make it work better in terms of how the new touch points are going to come out when they start releasing, let's say, a new portfolio of products, or doing a major change like what Netflix did when they went from sending CDs in the mail to having a streaming site. Remember, their digital transformation was a little bumpy, right? They actually said we're going to be all streaming, and then all of a sudden they were like, people were complaining, and they had to come back to a hybrid model. And so that's an example, really lovely case study of why you need to be extremely careful in doing that, and how it truly allows for doing something that's going to be disruptive to the business in a methodical way.
Well, that's going to be a great way to be starting off our event, kind of a forward-looking topic. The other topic that you're going to be part of is one of our half-day workshops, and those are all included with the one registration price. And that brings us maybe back into an area that's, a good substantive core competency for our constituency. Your topic is conducting competitive research and analysis for devising innovative products. So you'll have a lot more time to work with people in that one. How do you have that structured?
That's definitely my most popular half-day workshop because few people, you can read plenty of books about experience strategy where it might touch on different things like journey mapping and so forth. But the bottom line is for me is that if you don't know what's out there, then you don't know if you have a unique value proposition. And so I want to teach people to not be ostriches with their head in the dirt and pull it out and understand how important it is to look at direct competitors, indirect competitors, and even non-competitors, not just to understand the opportunity space, but to actually think about new ways to structure the business model so that the user experience can attract new customer segments. So the way that I teach the class is or the workshop is very much guided. It's one where we have a big Google spreadsheet that's up on the display that everybody can see, and everybody logs in, and people work in teams of 2, and we come up with one value proposition. So let's say it's Uber for boats. Uber for boat rides. And so everybody needs to search the web, the internet, to see if there's apps or websites so to allow people booking boat rides, similar to how Uber works, that mental model. And so then I teach them going through all the different attributes that need to be looked at, which go from user experience attributes like how in terms of like heuristically, how hard or easy is it to complete the most important task, to things like how much funding do they have, what's their market share, what is their exact customer segment, are they worldwide or are they just based in the United States, to really understand the entire landscape from like the optics of so many different angles. And so once I teach them like how to get that information, where to go out and find it, and everybody has gone through the row, then we talk about how to analyze it. Because the goal ultimately of doing research is to be able to walk away with actionable insights. And so I talk about how to look at a really ugly spreadsheet and how to analyze it. And if you want to present it to a client, let's say in a brief format, I show layouts for that. And the goal really is so that people walk out of there and they have a more methodical and empirical way for conducting competitive research. And it's not this ridiculous thing it has been where people are just like screen grabbing, apps and grabbing web pages and putting them on, in a Word doc and writing the pros and cons. That's not empirical. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to advocate and teach during this workshop.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have a lot of great input from you between the feature session and the workshop, and we appreciate you electing to participate, and we'll look forward to seeing you on your visit to Seattle in March.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to meeting you in person and meeting everybody there. It sounds like a great lineup. Thank you, Joe.